I think that just one of the things that you should probably know about men is that we don't know this. We weren't taught about it. I'm not saying
Mm.
that women were, but we definitely weren't, especially coming out of the Gen X generation. I had no idea what I was
Latchkey kids.
latchkey kids.
Right.
These were just conversations that weren't had. So, kind of going into it, I think you sharing that with me was huge.
Hi, friend, and welcome to the Girlfriend's Guide to Midlife podcast. I'm your host, Kathy, 47 years young, navigating the roller coaster of midlife right alongside you. When I realized how much there was to figure out in this season of life, I thought, who better to turn to than our girlfriends? Together, we'll dive into real conversations, share wisdom, and embrace all the messy, beautiful moments of midlife. So grab your favorite drink and let's jump right in. I'm so excited you're here.
Hey, friend. Okay, so every week I say I'm so excited, but this episode is really special. As you can see, I have my husband here. And if you're not watching and just listening in, I'm so excited to share that my husband, Marcus, is here with me today. We're just going to have a fun conversation. I will tell you, just like any other marriage, spouse situation, yes, I had to do all the things to try and get him here. He did not want to come, but I'm so grateful because I think the conversation, the side of the conversation with men in midlife is really important as well. And I think Marcus may be able to glean some insight. We've been married for 22 years, and I think that we have some wisdom to share there. It has not been perfect by any means, but we're still here and
We
we're
are.
still together. And we have an empty nest. And then just speaking of an empty nest, like we have successfully, I would say successfully raised two boys.
Yeah.
They're 19 and 22. So I wanted to start the podcast with a disclaimer, the elephant in the room, which is, the perimenopause journey. And, sometimes I feel a little bit more hormonal than others. And today happens to be that day. So if I cry, that is because I'm genuinely grateful that Marcus is here, but also because I'm really weepy right now. So fun.
Authentic.
Yes. There you go. So thank you for being here.
You're welcome, babe.
Thank you for letting me twist your arm.
The whiskey helped.
Of course, that always helps.
Yeah.
Whiskey talks.
Yeah, whiskey does.
So let's start by just sharing how is midlife?
Oh Lord, how is midlife? Great. No, midlife is it's definitely a new chapter. That
Yeah.
is without a doubt. I mean, it is exciting, challenging, scary at times, all of it wrapped into one.
And that's for you dealing with me
Absolutely.
and for you just having your own personal journey.
Yeah.
So I would love to just ask you and have you share a little bit about maybe some wisdom or something that you feel like women should be aware of for men during midlife. What are some of the things that maybe we don't realize because we all know what we deal with, right? Like I just said, I'm super weepy, I'm hormonal, and you do a great job dealing with me, which we'll talk about. But, there's the other side. And I think that we're so different. Men are from Mars, women are from Venus. Um, and I've never read that book, but the title says it all. So I don't know. What are some of your thoughts on things that men struggle with during this phase?
I think as far as is the things that men struggle with during midlife, well, let me start off with first saying that going through, because I know especially in midlife with a lot of women going through perimenopause, menopause, things like that. If you would have asked me 10 years ago what menopause is, I think my answer would have been like, I don't know. I think a woman's cycle gets messed up. They stop having a period. They can't have kids anymore. I mean, I really had no idea. You have been incredibly open with me throughout your journey, so I want to thank you for that. I never really realized just the internal battle that is going through with hormones, right? Like I had no idea that hormones will actually affect your mood, affect the way that you're feeling, it just constantly. So I think that just one of the things that you should probably know about men is that we don't know this. We weren't taught about it. I'm not saying
Mm.
that women were, but we definitely weren't. Especially coming out of the Gen X generation. I had no idea what I was.
Latchkey kids.
Latchkey kids,
Right.
these were just conversations that weren't had. So, kind of going into it, I think you sharing that with me was huge.
Hmm.
And then
Well, I mean, part of it is just that sometimes I'm batshit crazy. So I feel like I have to explain
your
myself.
your words, not mine. Your words, not mine.
I'm like, if I don't explain myself or come and apologize, then,
Well, I
I don't
think
know.
one
But
of the biggest lessons that I learned throughout this whole thing is like, and if I can give any advice to any guy who might happen to wind up listening to this, it's like, dude, it's not always you. And that's what I had to learn. Like, if you're pissed off or you're upset or you're crying, I know I can be an idiot, so there's a good chance that it is me, but it's not always me. And I think that's one of the big things. And I think a lot of men, we're fixers, right?
mm,
So there's something wrong. You're angry, you're upset, you're sad. We want to fix it.
mhm.
And a lot of times, like, this isn't something that can be fixed. Take your cues, know when to walk out of the room, know when to just let it be and let you go through what you're going through, you know?
I have all the thoughts as you're talking. One is like, you know, men do internalize a lot.
Yeah,
They tend to, you do. I have two boys. I've seen it with, my siblings. Like, they tend to make things like their fault, or what did I do wrong? She's pissed. What did I do
absolutely.
wrong? And I think just even for women to acknowledge that and to be okay with telling their husband, hey, I'm sorry, I just blew up, or this actually isn't you. And sometimes in perimenopause, we don't even know. I think it's taken a lot of time for me to like focus on and become aware of what is going on with me physically, to realize like I'm not always in control of myself, which sucks, but it's true. And so, but for the just the acknowledgement and awareness of that men do internalize. And so I'm glad that I'm so glad that for the most part, that it's not you.
And I no, absolutely. But I'll tell you, I wouldn't have known if you hadn't taken me on the journey with you, right?
Yeah.
If you haven't explained what you're going through. I know that you're doing multiple things. I mean, you're looking at hormone replacement and you're currently taking progesterone. You see,
Yeah.
I do listen. I know
Ah,
what you're taking.
good job.
You're spending a lot of time meditating. You're really working through a lot of these things. And had you not really taken the time to kind of explain to me not only why you're doing it, but
Yeah.
how you're doing it, I never would have known. And been able to kind of put two and two together and go on with that because of the education, and that's huge because honestly I think that if I didn't know, I would be that guy who was always trying to fix something that I can't fix, or thinking that I'm the root of a problem that I'm not.
Yeah. That's pretty insightful. I think um, that's really helpful. I would love to just kind of take listeners on a little bit of our journey, how we met and where we got to, how we are where we are now. So do you want to start?
Sure. Sure, of our story,
Yeah.
absolutely. Gosh darn, I was 23 years old working as a bartender at Carrabba's and a server as Carrabba's, and then one day this hot little number walked in as a new hire and was going to be trained, and I knew that I was not the only guy looking, but I was the guy who ended up with her. So we went from there. I want to say that was around April, right? April of probably '01
Yep.
was when you
April of
started.
2001.
Yeah,
Yep.
you and I kind of started dating around June of '01, and then February of
I
oh
think I'm kind of shocked that you remember all of these dates right
yeah.
now.
Oh, I mean, definitely. And a lot of it has to do with, I mean, believe me, it's not like I can remember the dates like that. I'm just kind of lining it up with Logan here.
Okay.
Um, so, just kind of when he was born. But, and then February of 2002, we decided to take a huge leap and move in together.
Hmm.
And then that was, I want to say February 1st. And then we had our first Valentine's Day together in our new house that we had down on Sawatch. And we went out and had a great time for that first Valentine's Day. And I remember the next day I was actually going to school at the time. And so I got up and went to class. You had a regular checkup at your doctor
I
and
have to insert a couple details. So Valentine's Day, we went out and, we live downtown. So we naturally like went to some of the clubs and we went to a great restaurant. But I was drinking like Long Island iced teas back then. And I was
you were.
smoking
Yeah.
cigarettes back then
Yeah.
because that was cool then. And I remember walking home and giving this homeless person, he asked me if he could have a smoke, and I gave him my whole pack of
I remember
cigarettes.
this. I
I
remember
was like,
this
here, take them all. And
right in
then
front of what was the Ritz at the time. Yeah.
it's so funny because, then I go to the doctor and go ahead.
Yeah. And so I come home from school knowing that she had a doctor's appointment that day, and I walk in and she is in tears on the couch.
Yeah.
And my first thought, like, I mean, I just remember this sense of worry and dread came over because I see you crying after coming back from the doctor. My first thought is, do you have cancer? Like, I mean, what is going on? And through your tears, you were like, I'm pregnant. I just
I think it
remember.
was more like, am I
Yeah, there was
pregnant?
definitely that. I wasn't going to try to recreate that. But and I just remember like the fear and the dread immediately going to oh shit to oh my God.
Oh,
All within the matter of like this is
yeah.
amazing. All within the matter of seconds.
Yeah. I,
And
re-
yeah.
I remember, the doctor told me, is there any chance you could be pregnant? And I was like, well, I guess. And she's like, well, we always like to check just in case. And then when they came in and told me, I mean, all the flashbacks of the night before came back. And I was like, oh my God, I literally like just drank like 3 Long Island iced teas and I've been smoking cigarettes. I'm like already like a terrible mom.
Oh my gosh. Yep. And
Oh,
you never touched a cigarette since that day.
no,
I mean, that was
no.
amazing.
I know. Thank you, Logan.
Yeah.
Um, ugh. Anyway, so then fast forward, we get home. I have Logan. Do you remember when we drove up and we both just kind of looked at each other out of the hospital and like we were just like,
Dude, I couldn't believe that they let us take this thing home.
I know, we were
I
like,
mean,
what do we do now? Like, did they really let us out of the hospital with this?
yeah.
But I think one of the blessings and challenges was that we were young. Both 23, 24. I had just turned, no, 24. I was just turning 25, like 3 days after Logan was
Hmm.
born. And, I mean, young and broke. What's that song?
Young, dumb, and
Young.
broke. Yeah,
I will not sing for you, but that was definitely us.
that was.
And, but at the same time, like, I remember just thinking, okay, well, we'll get through this and then we'll like have midlife where we're still young and we have money and we can do things. And then it's like, holy shit, it's here.
Yeah.
Like how fast that period of time went.
Well, I mean, it's crazy because I do remember thinking at that time. I mean, I don't know if you remember, we lost a lot of friends, and I don't want to say lost a lot of friends, but
Yeah.
we were still in the early 20s, as most of our friends were at that time, and we were the only one with kids. So
Yep.
everybody was still going out. We're staying home with the kid.
Yeah.
And that was something that we always talked about. Well, just think about it because when the kids are gone, we're still going to be young. And
Yeah.
I think that's what it turned out to be. And it's actually kind of funny now because a lot of our friends who are our age are in the thick of it right
Yeah.
now. And we're just kind of like, we're good.
Well, I also think like Logan was kind of everybody's first baby.
Yeah.
Like he literally like taught all of us so much.
Oh, he did. I mean, yeah, I remember one of my biggest thoughts because, my dad passed away when I was 6 months old. So I really didn't grow up with much of a example on how to be a dad. Um, I couldn't have asked for a better kid to, I guess, practice on. It's the best way to put that, to be able to kind of work through some of the kinks and kind of just learn what type of dad I was going to be.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, he was our friend group's first kid. He was, yeah, I mean,
Immediate family,
immediate
like,
family.
well, it's funny that you say he's our first to practice on, because I think when you and I were talking about this podcast and just talking about, like, we were laughing about just the journey of parenting and how, generationally you always kind of think like, I will never parent that way. I mean, gosh, we all like love our parents, but we all always also have those moments where we're like, I will never do that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Mom, I love you if you're listening. I just want you to know this, but I remember that there was this wooden spoon that had this crazy phrase on the back written in German about bad kids. And that thing was used on me more often than I can tell you. I mean, there were days I could not sit down after
Do
that.
you know what
And
the phrase is?
I don't. I wish I remembered, but I don't. And that spoon was finally broken over me when I was about 15 years old. And I just remember, and again, I mean, my mom, incredible woman, and I love her to death. Her and I have a great relationship now. Back then, it was pretty strained, but she was doing the best she could. I was the youngest of five. My dad passed away when I was 6 months old. Just moved into this country when she was, in 1974.
Yeah.
And so she met my dad over in Germany. He brought the whole family over. So my mom was tired. My mom had went through a lot, and
Yeah.
that was how she knew how to parent. And I'm not going to say that that was wrong, right? But I just knew that that wasn't how I wanted to parent. And there
Yeah.
was a reason why I moved out of the house when I was 17 years old
Yeah. And then moved over to
and
Colorado
then moved to
from New York.
Colorado at 20. It was
Right.
just like, I got to go. And so I just knew that I didn't want to parent like that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that there's anything wrong. I mean, but for me, that wasn't what I wanted to do with our boys. That wasn't the relationship I wanted.
I'm kind of grateful that we had kids when we did, because I feel like there's a lot of pressure on even our friends that are still navigating parenting, um on, I call it Instagram parenting, because there's just so much information out there. There's like this all the gentle parenting, all the there's just, to me, it's so much more pressure, where we were just kind of like, well, we're just figuring it out as we go. I mean, we definitely did some things like timeout was
Hmm.
probably one of our best punishments.
Yeah,
Nowadays it's very frowned upon, but I'm telling you, if anybody's looking for,
that worked.
it worked. And I remember, like, we did revert back to some of those old parenting. And I remember one time you did spank
Oh,
Logan.
I did. I did. I spanked Logan, and I mean, I think I barely touched him. And I mean, it was probably like a that. And I felt so horrible after I did it that I never spanked him again. But the one thing it did buy me is it bought me the look, because after that, all I would have to do is look at Logan if he was being bad, and it was immediate tears. And I was like,
I don't know. I think you're embellishing a bit. But I
no,
do remember you feeling
oh, I
devastated.
was devastated. I was devastated, and yeah, that was just something I never did again. But I think it is in today's day and age. I look at everything that's out there because, of course, being on social media, everybody has an opinion of what works. This is the best way to parent. And I think what we did was we kind of helped our kids dictate the way we parent in a way, just because we understood our kids and what was going to work and what wasn't. I mean, I remember with both the boys just being able to sit them down and being like, look, I'm just really disappointed in the decision that you made here.
Yeah.
And that worked better than any spanking or anything.
Yeah. That communication piece.
Yeah.
But you've had a really, really strong relationship with them, and you're also a very emotional person. So, like, that emotional talent intelligence is there. So I think there's a lot of benefits to that. Plus, we're 22 years in.
Yeah.
So, like, I mean, we're really lucky. Um, I've had, well, I don't want to go off on that tangent yet, but I definitely think, yeah, I think I can imagine parenting right now.
Oh, going through it again. I mean, it was absolutely one of the most rewarding times of my life. Anyway, is
Yeah.
just raising those two young boys that we raised, and at the same time, the scariest, the most challenging. I mean, yeah, all
Yeah.
of it.
Yeah. It is rewarding. And oh, I was going to say, like, I think parenting is a lot like dieting. And this is more for women.
Okay, I'm kind of
Okay.
interested to hear this one.
But like there is no one size fits all. Like not
Yeah,
everything's going to work. Like you have to figure out what works for you, right? You have to try the things. And if the things that you're doing are not working, well then stop doing it and try something else. And it's not always that easy. I mean, I was a school counselor. I know the stories that some people experience in parenting. It's literally one of the hardest things. But like, I think one thing that always works is like grace. Just
yes,
remembering, like, give yourself grace
yeah.
because, oh man,
Well, and I mean, I think one of the biggest things for me too was, just realizing that like these little people are just that. They're people. Like
yeah,
every single kid is going to be different. It's not a one size fits all, And I mean,
mm,
that's huge between Colin and Logan.
huge.
I could not discipline Colin the same way I discipline Logan. It
Yeah.
just didn't work,
But
So
that's not fair.
yeah, I know, right?
But
But you did this when I was his age. Like, no, dude, you're a different kid,
yeah,
And I think that's one of the big things that a lot of people need to remember is that these little dudes, they are people. They have
yeah,
their own personalities. They have their own things that are going to work for them.
yeah. We were talking about, one of the ways of communication, like how different we are with communication.
Mhm.
Like I verbalize everything. You compartmentalize everything. And Colin he's also a verbal processor. And I would say Logan is more of the compartmentalizing things.
I would agree.
So it has been really interesting how they also both have gotten different traits from us.
No, absolutely. And, yeah, I would definitely say Logan probably compartmentalizes a little bit more. Bear definitely needs to get it out there.
Yeah.
He needs to get it out there. And then there's me between Bear and you. And I'm just like, give me a week. I'll get back to you. Like, let me absorb all this. Let me get
I know
back to
you
you.
probably are. I give you a trophy for the most patient and best listener that I know.
No, I appreciate.
I don't know if you're always listening, but you fake it well.
I'm absorbing. I'm definitely absorbing. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there are probably times that I tone out, but it's still coming in. It's still coming in. And then I'll get back to you in like an hour or a week or something.
Yeah, kind of like the list, right?
Oh
Like,
gosh,
yeah.
the damn list.
I do give a honey-do list. I am one of those people because I just don't want to do certain things and he knows how. And so, and he never writes it down and it drives me absolutely crazy.
Steel
He's like,
trap.
it's up here. And I'm like, yeah, none of it's getting done. Can you just put it in your phone to make me feel better?
Yeah. But it gets done. It always gets done. It
Uh,
might be 10 things in one day, 3 months later, but it's gonna get done.
if somebody were to ask you, what has been the secret to longevity in your marriage, what would you say?
Oh gosh, that's a great question. I mean, the biggest thing I would say is dialogue. You have to be able to talk to your partner. You have to be able to talk to your spouse. That is huge. Again, because I think it kind of goes back to that whole thing with always thinking that the way you're feeling at that moment is because of me.
Hmm.
And without that dialogue, I wouldn't realize that it isn't. I think that's huge.
I
Compromise.
thought you were gonna say whiskey.
Whiskey. Oh, Lord, whiskey. I was kind of keeping that one, but yes, actually just alcohol. Whiskey, tequila, it's all good. No, but I think the other one is compromise.
Mm,
Compromise is huge. You have to be willing to. I mean, again, like I was saying with the kids, is you are not the same as I am.
yeah.
We are not going to look at every situation the same,
Hmm.
and so compromise is going to be huge. And so dialogue, compromise, and then just I think compassion and understanding.
Yeah.
I would say those are the two things. Right now it's my gosh, I look at what you're going through. I look at what you know, most of the women your age are going through. And my God, I'd probably curl up on a bed and not want to get out of the house for months at a time if I had to go through what you guys go through as far as the perimenopause going into menopause, things like
I
that.
think you're just trying to get brownie
I
points.
absolutely am, but it is the truth also. It is the truth also. But if it helps for brownie points, I'll take it.
I love it. I love it. Yeah, I would say communication, going back to, I'm a big verbal processor and you compartmentalize. Just really having and acknowledging like that we are so different.
Yeah.
I remember when I was younger, when we first got married, a good friend of mine, Krista, had we were just talking about marriage, and she had said, that if one person is just always in it, there's two people in a marriage, right? If one of you is just always fighting, that you'll make it. It's when both of you give up. And I'm super grateful. I think that we've definitely had our fair share of challenges. I mean, we're not perfect. And I think we're very lucky, but I think that has served us well.
I would agree with that. I mean, you know, back in 2003 or 2001 when we met, I mean, I knew right away. I knew that you were the one, and mostly because you do put up with me. I know I can be an idiot at times. I mean, sometimes I'm definitely that 47-year-old teenager without a doubt.
Well, you put up with me. I mean, I'm constantly on the go. I'm doing a podcast and I'm doing kitchens and cocktails and I'm doing full-time real estate and I'm hanging out with the girlfriends and I'm all over the
Well,
place.
I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if I could handle you if you weren't doing all those things because I don't know where all that energy would go. I mean, honestly,
Okay, fair.
my honey-do list would be twice as long.
Okay, that's funny. That's really funny. Um, I want to just talk a little bit about, I know we're kind of all over the place, but going back to parenting, we're empty nesters, which is kind of crazy. But it's weird because I think some of the challenges that you face with your young adult children feel almost heavier or harder than when you have babies.
Yeah.
And so I'm just curious what you or how, what phase of parenting has been the hardest for you?
Oh gosh. I think when they're younger, I mean, there are definitely some challenges, right? But there's guardrails.
Mm.
I mean, some of the decisions, I would say most of the decisions aren't final, right? I mean, they're not detrimental. They're because we're there, right? I mean, they can make a bad decision and we can be like, buddy, really sad at the decision you just made and here's why, right? Or especially as they become teenagers, they start experiencing new things, they start doing new things, and then of course you want to let them, right? Like you want to let them explore the world and kind of experience new things. But as a parent, you're there to be like, come back in towards center a little bit, like you're getting a little bit out there. And then once they become young adults, we're kind of there, but not really. I mean, it gets to a point like I can tell them to do something, they can say no, and there's nothing I can really do about it. Like, okay, I guess the answer is no.
You punch him in the throat.
Yeah, punch him in the throat, so I think going through teenage years is definitely hard because you want to give them a leash, but you don't want to make it long enough for them to hang themselves, right? And that's it. And for me, I would say the absolute hardest part of parenting was letting them go.
Mm.
And I'm going to say that is, from a guy's side, right? So when I married you, I became a husband and a protector. And I think most men are protectors. They protect their family. And then once you have your own kids, that protector grows, right? And then I know you can say they're always your kids, you're always going to be their protector, but they're outside of my circle of influence at this point. So
Mm-hmm.
you're sitting there as a protector with nothing to protect.
Mm.
And that was one of the hardest things, and I still struggle with that to this point. Is I think when they walked out that door, kind of part of my purpose walked out that door with them. And I would say that
He's
that
trying to make me cry.
no, absolutely not. Absolutely. I know ways to make you cry very quickly, and we're going to avoid those. But no, I would say that that was probably one of the hardest parts of parenting for me. I
Mm.
remember when we dropped Logan off for his first semester in school, I remember crying, driving out of Grand Junction. Um, Dropping Colin off, I remember bawling. And it wasn't because I was going to miss Colin more. I mean, in a way, it was kind of selfish because in a way, it was just kind of like, shit, what do I do now?
Yeah.
You know,
Start a podcast.
start a podcast. Well, I let you do that, and I'm just here. So,
But right before we started the podcast, we literally got a phone call from Logan needing mom advice because, they're moving out here and their apartment might not be ready and just navigating like just all those crazy life
yeah.
things where they're kind of like, what do we do? Help me problem solve.
And I love when it comes to things like that, they definitely call you. So they're going to call you for those things.
Well, what
They
are they
just
going to
send,
call you for?
I don't know, they send me funny memes on Instagram and things like that. So that's kind of what that
So
is.
when did the like shift go from like being friends or being like parent to being friends?
Oh my gosh, that's I think something that I still struggle with. I would say I kind of realized that there was going to be that shift with Logan. I think it was that Thanksgiving of his freshman semester when he came home.
Mm.
And of course, all of his friends are home from, all over. And he's at college. He doesn't have a curfew. He's doing whatever he wants to do. He doesn't have to check in. He doesn't have to do those things. And I just remember just being like, look, I'm not going to give you a curfew. Just don't be an asshole. Don't come, stopping into the house at 4 a.m. when we have to work the next day. And I think that's kind of when it started because that was the realization for me. Like, I get the whole thing. You're under my roof. You do as I said, but not really, right? I mean, he's an adult. He can just be like, all right, I'm going to go back to school early.
Well, you also had your own experience as a young adult where you gave your mom the middle finger and moved.
Yeah,
So you kind of knew that those quote unquote guardrails didn't work,
yeah.
or you didn't want to use them,
I didn't
right?
want to
You
use them.
wanted to use a different
Well, I mean,
approach.
and I don't even look at, the way I grew up wasn't necessarily even guardrails, right? Like my mom came from a different world. She came from a different country, a small village in Germany, and she was very strict.
Mm-hmm.
And that just, again, my personality didn't work for me. I
Mm-hmm.
was taking off during the summers to go follow the Grateful Dead, when I was like 13 years old. Um,
Almost Famous, the
that
movie.
that would have been a pretty cool life. But no, and I just knew that they're going to do what they're going to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And especially when they get to that age as they start getting older, and I just wanted to constantly be a part of my kids' lives,
Mm-hmm.
and that doesn't mean I was going to let them do whatever they were going to do, but I was going to help guide them. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I wanted to do. And to this day, and now my mom and I have a great relationship. Again, mom, if you're listening, I love you to death. And
You don't have to say that.
so, but especially with my boys, I just wanted to have that friendship once they got older. I know I'm always going to be their parent. I know when they're younger, you have to be the parent. You have to be the one to give them the advice, the guidance, let them know when they screwed up. But I didn't want them to give us the middle finger when they hit that age,
Yeah.
right? And I think that we have an incredible relationship with our boys now. Just,
Yeah.
and a large part of that is because of the way we parented, I think.
Yeah. You mean the blind parenting, like blindfold, we didn't really know what we were doing, like just throwing a noodle to the wall and hoping it stuck.
Yeah, but
That
I
was our
mean,
parenting style.
well, I think one of the things that we did with our boys is we kind of treated them like young adults
Yeah.
from an early age, right? Like we let them fall.
Yeah.
They always, and to this day, they know that we're there to pick them up if they need it.
Yeah.
But we didn't bubble wrap them. We let them fall. I mean, Logan's a great example of not bubble wrapping a kid.
Oh my gosh.
So
I'm sitting here thinking, like, I wonder if they were on a podcast talking about the things that they wouldn't do when they have kids. Like, just what those conversations would sound like, because it's not like we were perfect, right?
Mhm.
But
Far from it.
yeah. Well, I really appreciate your bravery and coming on my podcast.
Oh Lord.
I told you I'd be nice.
Yeah, you were incredibly nice.
I do have 5 questions.
Oh gosh, you did not warn me about
I
this.
didn't.
Okay.
They're really easy. Okay, the first one is, what's a song that always puts you in a good mood?
What's a song that always puts me into
It's
a
rapid
good
fire,
mood?
so you just got a first thing that comes to your mind.
Bertha, Grateful Dead.
Okay. I'm sure I've heard it, but what is your favorite beauty product?
Pass. I don't. I'm doing nothing as far as beauty for this,
Oh, come
as you can probably
on.
tell. Like my favorite
For
beauty
men. Yeah,
product.
what's something that you, a regimen or something you've used, like a product that you like?
I brush my teeth. I mean, I really don't know.
Okay,
Like,
fine.
I mean, I do my hair occasionally. Like, you wanted me to do my hair before this. I'm like, honey, we're doing a podcast. We're not really going anywhere. I'm not doing my hair.
I don't know. I thought maybe you would.
So my cap is probably my best beautiful regiment. My hat.
Okay, there you go. I love it. What is a guilty pleasure?
Guilty pleasure. I'm not a sweets guy, but I do love Ben and Jerry's half baked.
Mm,
That's probably a guilty pleasure of mine.
yeah.
And actually, I will take that back. A guilty pleasure of mine is definitely Chappelle Roan also.
Ah, that's hilarious.
Love it. Love it.
Okay, and then what is
She's great.
something that you wish your younger self would have known?
Oh my gosh. Something I wish my younger self would have known. That most of the BS that you go through as a kid is just that. It's BS. It's going to be all right.
Hmm.
It's going to be all right. That shit when you're younger doesn't matter.
Yeah,
It's going to be okay.
that sounds like that's a song too.
Might be.
Yeah. Okay, and then lastly, like what's an unfulfilled bucket list dream of yours?
Unfulfilled bucket list of mine. That's a good one. You know, it's crazy after being a parent for so long. I know this is rapid fire, but a lot of times you really don't think about that. But I would say visiting Patagonia is
Mm,
definitely an unfulfilled bucket list. That is one part of this world that I absolutely want to see.
yeah.
And I want to experience it not just with you, but with the boys too. I mean, being able to go down there and the fishing that happens down there, just the scenery, the hiking, the climbing, all of it.
Yeah.
So that is definitely an unfulfilled bucket list.
Awesome. Well, I love you
I love you.
and I appreciate you being here.
Absolutely.
And
Thank you for having me.
yeah, I'll have
Even
you
though
back
you
on
kind of
again.
forced me to, but just kidding, just kidding.
All right.
I am here under my own admission, so.
Hey, friend, thanks so much for tuning into this episode. I hope it brought you value, a few laughs, and maybe even an aha moment. The conversation doesn't end here. We've got an amazing community of women waiting to connect with you. Join us on Facebook in the Girlfriend's Guide to Midlife podcast community group, where we share takeaways, swap stories, and cheer each other on. You can also find me on Instagram at Girlfriend's Midlife Podcast for daily inspiration, sneak peeks of upcoming episodes, and a behind-the-scenes look at this midlife journey. Or on my personal handle at DearCathy719, where I share about my day-to-day life, real estate, and what I find inspiration in. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love it if you left a quick rating and review. It helps more women like us discover the podcast and reminds me that I'm not just talking to myself over here. And don't forget to hit the follow button so you'll be the first to know when the next episode drops. Check out the show notes for links to connect with today's guest and all the goodies we have mentioned. Until next time, keep thriving and showing the world how fabulous midlife can be. You've got this.